Welcome back to another episode of Move with Kyuta Klinger. Building a strong culture is what builds a strong organization, and that is what Esad Morina has been doing for close to 20 years successfully with the Las Vegas Heat Surf. As the head of coaching, just one of his many titles there, we discuss some of the fundamental aspects to his approach on coaching youth soccer players from the ages 3 up until 19, boys and girls. How everything starts with a safe environment, inspiring coaches that serve as role models and educators who operate within an organic structure that evolves with the different age groups. Coaching is an art, but at the scale and complexity that Esad operates at, it is also very much a science. As a strength and conditioning coach myself, this conversation was not only informative, but also one that challenges my own practice to do better. I hope you enjoy this episode. This is how it usually starts. So welcome to Move, Esad.
Thank you.
And I think for those that are not familiar, let's start off with a little bit of what you do and where you do it at.
Currently living in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the States, and been part of used to called Heat FC, which is part of Southern Nevada Soccer Association. We are a non-profit organization that offer youth soccer training and league for the local kids. And we have the recreational side, which we have about 4,500 kids. And then on the competitive side, which roughly hits 1,200 kids per year. And the competitive side, the program is designed around giving the kids opportunity for college scholarships, giving the opportunity first just to be part of the structure, love the game, enjoy the game, and hopefully down the line they love it enough and are good enough to potentially look for the college, Division I, Division II, III, NAIA, community college, whatever the case, so they get free education. And then from time to time, we get kids that move on into pro level as well, pro contract. So I oversee the competitive program. I also help with the recreational program. And we also run tournaments a couple of times a year where we host an event can have from 300 to 500 teams per weekend. And that's roughly 900 plus games in 2.5 days type of thing. So I oversee all the logistics, scheduling, referees, and so on. So yeah, it's quite fun, entertaining.
Yeah, that's now when it comes to the coaching side of things, like as we've kind of had a few conversations outside of the studio. When did you start to get into football? Obviously, a passion of yours.
Yeah.
When did you kind of get into the coaching?
Yeah, played as a young kid here growing up. Played local club, Dardana in Kamenica. Played in FC Drita in Zhvillon as well. And then when I moved to the States during high school, and I just continued to play over there as well. So played indoor pro soccer in the States as well. And then had 3 knee surgeries and kind of had a pushback on things and Achilles and just dealing with injuries. And in coaching got involved in some way. I call it by accident, but I think something was inviting me to be part of something that I truly love being part of. When people ask me why soccer, it's the only place I get lost. I'm on a zone. I just enjoy every moment. And when I see kids feel that, what I feel, I take a lot of pride on that. And so a former director just kind of asked me, hey, would I like to help with the camp? And I said, sure. And next thing you know, I'm part of it. I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. And then I got very keen about education side of it. And I wanted to, not just as a player, I wanted to understand from the coaching aspect, the psychology behind it, the social side to it. And I went and did all education with the U.S. Soccer Federation. And then I also went to England with the English Federation, did all my badges in England as well over the years, and then did a little bit of La Liga, a little bit of Italian, just trying to get perspective from different cultures, how they do things, what they do, and obviously my experience as a player, my upbringing, all that kind of created a new drive. And just giving to the community from a young kid. I always wanted to be part of a team, structured team, formed teams. Back in the days, we call it mahala, kipi mahalas, which means the neighborhood team. And I used to captain the team and sometimes manage the team. So all my friends always kind of followed my lead in terms of that. So always somehow from a very young age had a little bit of the leadership, enjoyed that, but above all, just sharing with others and get to grow with others.
If I'm not mistaken, you're also one of the first Albanians to be licensed by UEFA.
So,
right?
yeah, currently I have the UEFA license. Now there are probably a few more around. I know there's some professionals that are working on the professional game. Just depend. So there's more UEFA, a lot of more UEFA coaches now around the world because the UEFA changed the pathway how they do the education. So now they're allowing the federation, Albanian Federation, the Kosovo Federation to host licensed as well. So back, this is going 10 years plus. When I did, only few federations in the world offered such opportunities. And at that time, when I did in England, it was very, very challenging to even get in because the number was so limited, especially in England, was very, very limited. So somehow they allowed me to get in and I enjoyed it. It was, the A license was a 3.5 years timeline to finish it. I finished it in 3. Just created a network around England, get to see what professional teams around England do, got to see Manchester United, City, even some Chelsea stuff, and any opportunity I got with any clubs, because a lot of people that were part of my course were coaches on different professional clubs around the English Premier League. So that's how kind of evolved, grew, and just changed. So yeah, it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, I mean, the levels to when it comes to coaching, right, is I mean, it's a continuous journey. That's one for sure. And then, as you mentioned, there's the psychological, the social, certainly the sport specific. Then when it comes to sort of maybe where I'm more familiar, the strength and conditioning and mobility and all these elements are kind of continuously evolving. But I would, certainly imagine that when you are attending these kind of programs, such as the UEFA licensing, then that's the ultimate networking kind of place, right?
100%. And you'll learn more from others and what they're doing on their clubs and what's working, what's not working, and new ideas and things that are getting implemented at different clubs takes things to another level. Because a course is just a syllabus that you go through steps. When you're working with others and you're sharing ideas and thoughts, now is exploring the education to the next level. And every time you have a conversation with another coach from another country and different philosophy, mentality, and mindset always brings new thoughts and new ideas into the education side. So for me, I'm big in technology, so I'm always looking for ways to grow on that as well and how to make it easy, accessible for coaches, for parents, for players, and be able to have a better visual of everything that we do and that we offer. But honestly, the biggest education happens on the field with players, because people always think of, if I have better players, automatically I do better. But that's not the case. As a coach, even if you have the worst players, it's about how can you grow from that? And how do you challenge the group that is in front of you? And sometimes, what is the mission? Is the mission of improvement? Is the mission, like if my mission is only to sell a player to, let's say, a professional senior team, then you have to handpick every player that comes in. If your mission is to improve what's in front of you for better people first, structure, how to create a better social life around the kids, and psychologically, how does that help them in different parts of their life? It challenges you in different ways that you never thought of. And each kid has a way of growth and has a timeline of growth. Some kids might hit early puberty, or some kids might be all about at age 10, and then by age 13 something dies away and they're not so much into the sports, or it could be family issues, or could be school, education, grades issues, could be so many factors that play a role on the pathway of the development over the years. It's very, very difficult to predict who can shine and when. You can have assumptions, but the reality is that there's so many variables that go into the play of the process of, just like if you go back to our old days when we were in middle school or high school, they were great students and all of a sudden they disappeared. And then there were students that were maybe middle. As the time went, they just kept shining and kept shining, kept shining. And the hardest thing on this is consistency. If you can keep the consistency throughout the year, more likely you're gonna be the it, no matter what field, either you're in sports or different things. And if that consistency lacks just a little bit, then the target becomes more difficult to reach out.
Yeah, I like how you pointed out, certainly consistency is probably one of the most critical elements, right? I think you could have the perfect plan, but if you don't execute or are consistent with it, it doesn't mean. And you could have maybe, a subpar plan, but if you are consistent, at least there probably will be a little bit of progress, right? Our focus on youth,
Yeah.
right? So from what age to what age do you kind of work with?
So our recreational side starts as young as three-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah, and we call them low kickers. And
Lower-
low kickers program, and we go all the way to U19 up to college. So senior, there's about to graduate. So that's kind of our program. The competitive side, we focus roughly U7 and up. That's kind of like our focus. It's a U3, when you watch them just being introduced to it, some of the kids picking grass, some of the kids chasing, going off the field, and they're just being kids. It's a great joy just to watch them. Some of them going the opposite direction, and then you see the growth over the years, the consistency of training that gets built into it, that passion that gets built into it. For me, and what I try to do when we do coaching education, one thing that we talk a lot about is fun, enjoyable, passion, energy. Kids want to feel your energy. You are their leader. When they feel it, when they buy into the trust, they buy into the belief, they buy into what you're doing, then they're gonna be more into it. If you show a side of weakness, which is hard as humans, we go through stages, we go through difficult times as well, and not always, it's not easy to bring the energy, but it's very, very important to, as soon as you step on the field, to leave everything on the side and just remember why you're there. And just be on the zone, be on the moment, and bring the energy in, and just create the process and create the mindset with the kids so they enjoy the whole upbringing, the whole process. And so, yeah, we start very young, and we go a bit too organized. For my taste, I think we are too organized too early. I would love to see a bit more freedom, more creativity at a younger age. But the challenge with the States, and is becoming more and more in Europe, street soccer doesn't exist anymore. Kids don't just go on their own. Everything is scheduled by parents. Everything is on a family schedule. If it's not on the family schedule, more likely they're not going to do an activity. Where back in the days, kids used to go play 6 to 8 hours on the streets. Your parents didn't even know where you were. And you just did what you wanted to do. You jumped from game to game to game, from neighborhood to neighborhood. Before it got dark, you got home. Today, that doesn't exist.
So do you feel that with that regard, like, is it the passion is different? Like, kind of, because obviously the kids, if you're just out there playing street soccer, football, like because you just can't get enough of it, right? Versus like being funneled through parents or, kind of the culture, society, kind of like, all right, from 6 p.m., let's do this,
I think it has to do a bit with the economics, the financial freedom that today exists, that way we work. We work from anywhere in the world, a lot of people. And also the financial freedom that the earning is much easier than it was 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 100 years ago. So that I go from back in my days where our parents were about survival and we were dealing with a war. So sports were not a priority and you just had to figure out your own ways and your own things. And I think with the financial freedom, and parents are more into it. Parents are more part of their kids' journey. It's not like, see you in a few hours, or in many cases, like I remember one time my dad comes home, says, yeah, one of the coaches stopped me on the street and said, oh, you need to eat more to get stronger. He didn't even know who my coaches were. because they were just not involved. But I do feel like the financial freedom and the way the world works today allows parents to be more part of their journey, which is a great thing. But also sometimes I feel like that pressure, because the amount of time and money gets spent to put them into the structure, they expect the kids to behave almost as robots in a way, because they're spending their money and time into it and not allowing them to be just kids, and hopefully through the process they pick it for the next level.
I feel like maybe a bit of spontaneity is lost as well, whereas, you know, outside, like when we were growing up, like mobile phones didn't really exist.
100%.
So you had to go outdoors, you found ways to entertain yourself, you had a ball and a wall, and there you go. That
100%. Technology definitely plays a big role. I mean, you have gaming at home, you're playing kids from around the world. And like I remember my nephews came to visit me last year in Vegas, and then they got to become friends with a lot of kids in Vegas, and then next thing you know, they're playing on PlayStation and FIFA from here and across the world. That didn't exist many years ago. And technology definitely has also a massive impact on how the kids behave nowadays, and the distraction and the options they have. And again, to be great at anything, but especially when it comes to sport where the spots are so limited, you have to be obsessed with that to be the best at it. And sometimes you ask yourself, for something very unknown, no matter how hard you try, it's still unknown if you can make it or not. The percentage is 0.0001 to depend on the sports and so on and so forth. Your chances of making to the elite level. So to have all the suffer, all the struggle, where I can have a normal life regardless, it's a tough ask sometimes for the kids. And it's definitely those technology has made a lot of those changes for sure.
if you could kind of summarize sort of your approach, like how would you kind of try, not to sell it, but how would you describe it in terms when it comes to the coaching side of things?
In what aspect?
So, well, I guess there's the competitive side, but also like across, are there a number of elements? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, are there a number of elements that are consistent, whether it's for, the kids just looking to have a little bit of fun to the competitive side across your team?
So we look for the structure all the time. We look for the standard discipline all the time. We look to create the environment where it's safe. You want safety as number one priority, no matter what. And then with safety comes fun and structure and so on and so forth. So even from the coaches, we look for the coaches that are positive, they're allowing their creativity, they're allowing to be just enough structured, but also give freedom to the kids as well. We want coaches that are role models, like on and off the field, somebody that can have that. Because in some way, shape, or form, most coaches are like parents. Second parent in most cases. So those kids are going to look forward to those guys. They're going to look forward to whoever's in front of them. And in many cases, like we have so often parents be like, they listen more to you guys than listen to me. So please address this or that. And so all these things definitely, I mean, when we look into coaching, we look for those guys, role models on and off the field, because again, they play a massive role into kids' upbringing. In many ways, it's not just about the sports; it's our everyday life, and just through the learning process and decision making and examples and keeping them of bad things and just having all this conversation all the time. And depending on the age we are dealing. Like this past year, I was coaching U19s. And they are trying to figure out life. They're trying to big steps. A lot of them are feeling a lot of things that could be dangerous as well. So you're trying to have those open conversations with them to be not just a coach, not just a mentor, but also be a friend to them. Because sometimes there are things that they might share with you and not share with their parents. So just giving them a bit of advice through the process to keep them on the right track, it goes a long way. And not judge them. That's the hardest part, I think, sometimes, is not to judge and just listen, because you just don't know what they're going through. And until you figure that, then you can kind of guide them and help them and be their mentor without allowing them to make the decision on their own. You're just part of that education piece. And which is a challenge. It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, because I think it's already complex enough when you're starting with the 3-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
And with so up to the age 19, how many age brackets is it?
So we go every year.
Oh, so each year is its own.
Each year,
so 3,
yes.
4, 5, all the way up to 19.
Correct. Yeah.
So, needless to say, I think each year it becomes more complicated in its own ways.
Absolutely.
Right? And you as a big, you have your systems that are, let's say, organic enough that kind of grow with the age group as well, right? So then, and then the level of communication has to adapt with each year, I guess, right? That too.
100%.
And then you also coach both sexes as well, right?
Yep.
And that is a whole different
100%.
ball game as well.
Yes, definitely a different ball game. I mean, our club is we have just slightly over 50% on the girls' side, and then we have on the boys' side. And obviously, girls' soccer in the States is massive. Always been massive as a world champ.
I think people forget, sorry to interrupt, but I think people forget, like, up to university, soccer or football, as is known here, is like one of the most popular sports in the U.S., right?
100%, especially on the female side, world champs and, the most world championships. And so they look up to those female figures. And pretty much, I mean, women's side has changed sports in many ways when it comes to soccer and building into other things. Like they fought over the years about equal pay, and they made that happen as well. So there's a lot of things, a lot of steps they had to take, and a lot of bleeding they had to take over the course of the journey to get the women's side to where it is. And we still got a lot of work to do. And you're trying to find ways, even like I look at my club, is how do I bring more female coaches in? Because the way a female can talk to another female is very different from how a man can speak to a girl, or during the different timing, or depend on their age and so on and so forth. And you learn through the process. It's such a different communication. It's such a different way. It's like this year also I coached U19 girls as well. So my approach shifting from U19 girls to U19 boys on a single night is very interesting. My tone, the way I speak to them, the way I say things, the way the message is out, is very, very different. And you learn to grow, you learn to adjust, it requires a lot of switching and different approaches. And it's so many times you think you said the right thing to a girl. What they understood versus what you said could be completely different. Boys, when you say something to a boy, parents will never know about it. They just keep it to themselves. They probably brush it out right away. When you say something to a girl, more likely depend what you said, good or bad. It could have such a massive message for them. And that message could go to the parents, could go further. They share right away. In some cases, it can impact their feelings, can impact or the way they understood it. So it's a very challenging, but also very educational as well. Yeah, like there's a lot of coaches in my club, I will not let them be anywhere close to the girls' side. They're just not made for the girls. And there's a lot of coaches that are just made to coach the girls because the way, the temper and the level and everything around it.
The importance of communication, where, okay, is it understood as how you communicated it, and then how is that then interpreted, transmitted, and by the time maybe the parents are involved, it's become something else, right? So
absolutely. I had a case, we were at a training session. So the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, the coach is a female on the women's side. And she's also part of our club, which we've been very blessed to have her as part of us. And she played for Mexico national team, well established and so on, and good success with the school. And we were training one night, and I praised this girl about what she's doing, and she should do that all the time. And they went into water break immediately after. But something changed about her figure as she was walking away. And the coach from University of Nevada said, I don't think she understood what you meant. So they had the water, they came back, and I asked her, what was my message? How did you understand my message? And she said, this and this. I was like, absolutely not. What I meant is you are capable of doing that all the time. Keep doing it. Where she almost understood it kind of like in a way.
It wasn't an encouragement.
It wasn't an encouragement type of thing. So it's very interesting, like sometimes how we are wired and how we listen to things. Where the boys, doesn't matter what you say, in most cases it just gets right out.
Boys being boys.
Yeah, boys being boys, and definitely it's very, very different ballgame.
What do you think is sort of, if you can kind of distill it down to one thing or a couple of things that's most important with that? Because it almost feels like you are really in the crosshairs with every age group, both sexes, like to be able to be an expert communicator. I mean, that's something that I feel like each individual like is learning on a daily basis, and that's just in normal interactions with friends versus friends, to parents versus significant others, and these kind of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, listening, it's a massive part. And then how you make decisions on that process. That decision making is something we talk a lot in the games. We talk of the games, how we go about it, what do they know, how they know what they know, and how do we go forward? How do we process that? What information they have, how do they process the information? What is some of the outcomes they think of the information, and how do you move forward with it? So those are some of the things that I constantly try to guide and just say, take your time, listen. For me, one of the biggest coaching lessons that I can say was, this is many, many years ago when I started coaching, was a year into it, year and a half into it. This is where the recording was not normal at the youth level. We didn't record games at youth level. But there were companies that will offer services to record. We were going to this tournament in San Diego, and there was this company that was offering recording, so I decided to buy all 6 games that we were playing. I had 2 teams, 3 games each, and they were on DVDs. So I got the DVDs about 4 or 5 weeks later, and the camera happened to be just over me, overseeing the field, and of course recording my instructions the whole time. And at that time, I felt like it was so much instruction were going on, so much shouting going on. There was so much joysticking going on. And on that second, I said to myself, would I ever play for that coach? My answer was no. Immediately, from that moment on, my whole change in perspective about the coaching changed. It's not about how much you say, it's how you say it and how impactful it's what you say. And that's something that the only way is understanding your players, understanding their families, understanding their upbringing. The more you understand around all that, the better you're going to be, way better off and faster and giving them what they're looking for. If you're just making decisions based on what you think is right, it never works.
It's never just about what you see, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't just take anything for face value, because it's the situation is complex, the person in front of you is complex, it's in a complex situation.
Yeah.
That's in your situation with 11 kids at least on the field. You have a few more on the bench, right? And then there's so many stakeholders, right, that are involved. So that's it's almost like a daunting task. That
it's a lot of managing. It's a lot of managing feelings, and then being able to prepare like when we're talking about, everybody wants to be special, everybody wants to be part of the game. But you have to make decisions and you have to make choices. But also, as you make those decisions, you have to have all this conversation, all this communication on the side as well. How do you keep, like, let's just say I chose 11 to be in. Well, I got another 7 here. How do I keep them, their mind sharp, motivated, to trust me, so when they come in, they can change the game? And that piece is so challenging. Because, again, you feel for them. But also there's game decisions to be made. But also through that game decision making, you know how important they are. And how do you keep them at the best mindset to be able to come in and be the difference maker? And again, I always talk about the decision. It's not about how long you're in the game. It's about the impact you have while you're in the game. There's scenarios over and over where something has changed in a minute. Something has changed in seconds. Or like you go into athletics or running, sprinters, swimming, a split second. It's a different before first place, second, third, and so on. You train and train and train and train, and a split second decides all that. Something so tiny, like can't even breathe, but it decides that. It decides if you make millions or if you make 100,000. The split second. But unfortunately, there's only one winner and second and third. And the game of soccer is no different. It might not be exactly a split second, but you do so much training that through the process of decision making as you step on the field, how you take care of yourself on the field, off the field, your mindset, your mentality, how does your family plays a role into you as well. What kind of pressure you put yourself, how do you deal with pressure? Are you a coach that can take the pressure away from them? And so all those things play a massive, massive role when you're trying to manage. And that management comes all through decision making and communication and trying to understand each player and when they are important. And there's so many cases up there like Sir Alex Ferguson, where he's known one of the best in the world. Like stories always told, like he had to play, let's say Tottenham, it will be Skolsey, you go on vacation. Like, why, coach? Because you always get a red card, you need a break. And just different mindset, different ways of what it means and how it means, and also your players. Like again, it comes down to, can you create that trust players to buy into you? When you make the decision, they know you are doing the right thing by them. At least it's the best interest of you for them and for the team. And it's not easy to get there. And that's why we see over and over leaderships, and this can happen, it's not just sports, politics, anything. It's very difficult to get.
One thing I definitely want to kind of, because we spoke about this, and it's a bit of a theme that we're talking about right now, is the importance of decision making, right? And that definitely is part of your approach in terms of already teaching, right, the kids how to become better at that. And you explained it to me sort of in a very interesting way, where also it's a kind of a lesson in creativity, right? Especially how these kids express themselves on the field, and how that is then being translated to like also off the field, right?
Yeah. It's such a critical piece because decision making is connected to our everyday life. When we look at any journey, there's a lot of small decision making to lead to a big decision making. But the big decision making did not define the journey. The small ones did. Even a training session, when you have it an off day, the decision making to create the mindset that I'm gonna train today, or I'm gonna do the right thing today, whatever the case might be. And when you're in the game, like especially when you're playing the game, you're in a moment. In a split second, there's a lot of things happening. In a split second, by the time, even as a coach, if you try to, and that was when I go back to the story when I was trying to give instructions too much, by the time your instructions go to the player, it's too late. So the split second, how do you get the players to make their own decisions and collect information as fast as possible through training, so then they can make those game decision making. No matter what their game decision making is, you still encourage them to continue. Either they fail or they don't. You encourage them to go after it and constantly move on to the next thing. So if you are, let's say, a midfielder and you're trying to process 360 where other players are, your own players, opposition players, how is the ball coming towards you? How is your first touch going to be, one way or another? Is it going to be a one-touch play, two-touch play? Is it going to put the player offside or not? All this information, trying to collect it, how fast and how you can process that. It's that's what makes people special. And different people process things at different rate and different speed and timing and based on the pressure, how they deal with it as well, and how they can execute it after all of it. So for me, that part of decision making, and then I connect that to life. I constantly preach everything we do on the field, we preach to life. Okay, in life, you're going to turn, let's say, a friend called you to go out to do something bad. What was your decision? How did you absorb the information? Was it peer pressure, or how did you get to it? And just educating, it's so important to give power to people, to allow them to learn from it and make their own decisions. I'm not telling you how to make the decision. I'm just showing you ways to collect data and you make the decision. Because sometimes I feel like we get so into installing, I want to set up my beliefs, my mindset into you, versus, hey, here's some of the things that worked for me. Use it as you think is right for you.
Because the other way would almost imply that then you would be judging them at the same time, right?
100%. 100%.
And you want to avoid that, right? Because you have to almost like give them that space, because it's not like a carrot or stick situation, right?
Yeah, you definitely want to give the freedom and not influence anything in any way, shape, or form, and just allow them to see what's working. And then when you see things working, you go back to point to them, hey, you did this and it worked. And then that's how they buy into it. So another big change that's happened, at least for youth soccer, I can say, is the cameras. In the last 4 to 6 years, we have cameras in every game, even at youth level. So there's new systems in place where you can set it up in 30 seconds. It goes 24, 25 feet high, records every move. No matter where the ball is, records everything. And goes into platform, every player's access. They can have all that access in a matter of half hour. And they can analyze themselves. And something that you said to them during the game or at halftime or so on, you can be like, hey, go watch the moment. Did it match? And when they see the message as what you said, actually can see it for themselves in the game. Now the trust just grows more and more and more. One thing I can tell you is that, especially since the cameras have come into place, is there's less conversations with parents. Because before, about playing time or how they play and so on, it was a matter of opinion. You saw it how you saw it from your angle. I saw it how I saw it from my angle. Despite that I might have the expertise as a coach and so on, as a parent, you felt entitled to how you saw the game. And a lot of times it's emotional as well. So that makes it even more challenging, where with the footage, the game doesn't lie. I don't go create an artificial footage of you. It's right there. And when they see it, it's very little conversations. So it's a very, very different ball game for sure. And that continues to evolve. So for me, I've been enjoying, especially the cameras. We have a system called VEO. It's based from Denmark. And they are absolutely outstanding. Like literally 30 seconds, boom, done, set up, gone.
Use of data tracking. So I think, given that also you have a background in IT, were you an early kind of adopter of these technologies?
Again, it started for me, again, over 10 years ago when I was doing my UEFA license, and part of my UEFA license that was required from the English Federation was data. But the environment I was in, which is not a pro level, it's just an academy youth level and so on. Financially, it's hard to come around that. That didn't exist. So at that time, I was taking more like guesses through what could be, should it be, would it be. But then, again, technology, it's always been part of me and something that I wanted to look into it and so on. So I got very interested into it. And then I came across a player tech company, which is a collecting data, GPS, you wear a vest with a tracking device on your back. And I wanted to make it financially reasonable, but also be able to collect data and understand what we are going through. So at the time, I was overseeing 4 different teams. from U10 to U14 kind of range. So I collected data over 3 years of 42 players at the time, and just so data again can be used in many different ways, and depend how you look at it and what you do with it. And for me, the most interesting, I'm a numbers guy, math, my world, and just a numbers guy. And for me, the biggest interesting part was the load. How many, like especially in the States, it's a culture of the tournaments. We play often tournament weekends. And on the single tournament weekends, if you are a good team, you make it all the way to the final and you win a championship kind of thing, you're playing minimum of 5 to 6 games on a 2.5 day type of thing. Over that, literally, even my lowest player was over a marathon, 25.2 miles over the course of those many games. Even the subs were up there. And to me, I found
What age group is this?
This is literally U11, U12, U13.
Okay,
it was happening amongst all the age groups.
Okay.
It was happening. So also the interesting part on that was the running was similar regardless of the age. Now the force, the everything else, obviously is different depending on the strength of each players and teams and age, how old they are, and so on and so forth. And to me, I immediately right away, I'm like, okay, somebody has experienced to run a marathon. I ran the San Francisco Marathon. And I remember how painful it was. Despite that, I did a little bit of training and so on and so forth, and I played sports all my life and so on, how painful that was, especially, and it was all about the mindset that got me to the finish line, because I don't think my body was or should have done it. And after the marathon, I literally could barely walk for a good week, and I was taking ice baths several times a day to kind of calm my body down. And then you think of these kids that just ran a marathon, and then you shouting at them on the final game, why can't you do this better? We are sending message to these kids. Just think of shouting at someone you could be better at something as you're running last 5 minutes of marathon. Like, that's mind-blowing. Like, and then on that, in soccer, you got to take the physical part to it, that you are pushing and pulling players.
Accelerating, decelerating.
Yeah, all of that. And then you're dealing with the soccer ball factor. And then you have times walking in and out from game to game. And that warm-up is not even part of it. That's the other part of it as well, that when you think of all the data and how much these kids, does they impact their growth? Does they impact, all these little things play a big role. And for me, the load was very, very eye-opening. But also the interesting part around it is how much parents and kids were about competing with each other. So if somebody ran 7 miles per game, the next player wanted to run more, wanted to do more. But now we go back to decision making. Does it mean that running more, you are more effective? Not necessarily. It's knowing when to run, how to observe the energy, how to collect, how to be able to play at high pace, maybe last 10 minutes of the game. And through the middle of the game, you manage the game. And those are the things that help me as a coach to grow as well. How do you go through those changes in managing, observe pressure without consuming too much energy? So the data gave a different perspective. How do you manage and approach the games differently? And how do you demand out of your players, and when and why? And getting them to understand as well, to buy into it. And then you have the parents factor. How do you educate them on the process to allow them, the reason why X player is doing this is so later on can do Y. Because sometimes as a parent, when you sit on the sideline, if you don't see your kid doing anything, you feel like, well, you're not doing anything. You know, right away, that tone comes right away into it. And so the data, and I did it such early, I can comfortably say I probably was one of the first around the world to do that kind of data and have that much data at the youth level. Now it's more common all around the world, and this was way before COVID. And I stopped it right at COVID because at the time we were not allowed to share a vest, and we were not allowed to do it. Even the bibs, we used to have separate bibs during COVID. So a lot of things changed during COVID, but that gave me enough for me to understand, okay, how do I approach everything and what do I do and so on. But yeah, it was a great lesson, a great learning curve and motivating curve. But now you also see a lot of parents and players that buy their own thing and they track their own journey. And there's, tracking of, you can put on their shoes that can sense your touches and your dribbling and your running, and they're just data all over. And it's just a matter of how you utilize it, what's the purpose to it. And as long as that's not killing the spirit of a player, especially when we're talking about the kids, I think they're perfectly fine. The limit of age doesn't matter, because sometimes a 7-year-old can feel all excited about that. They just, if they did 100 touches today, they want to break their own record tomorrow, or they're competing now. Such equipment, they are connected to a platform that's shared amongst players around the world. So you probably could, just like in PlayStation, you're playing a kid in Las Vegas or Los Angeles or wherever, or England, Manchester, or London, you're doing the same thing. You're comparing data with some kids. So this companies have allowed for things to be shared and for things to be competitive amongst the world. You're no longer coming from, let's just say, back in the days, you didn't know what people did in Manchester, what people did in London, what people did in Zurich. Somebody told you a story. In today's world, in a matter of seconds, I can understand and see what they're doing. I can no longer listen. You can listen to my story, what Vegas looks like, but in few seconds, you can research it and find for yourself if I'm BSing or is it a true story. So it's a very, very different world. So which is good, because again, allows people from any part in the world to be up to date. And that's, you see it more and more in sports, and you see it more and more in soccer, how even small teams from different part of the world shocking big teams. Why? Because they have data. They know how they play, they know what they do. It's not anymore unknown. They know what their level looks like. So often, more often than you think it does, we have those upsets all the time.
It's advanced so much that even on an individual level, with a little bit of disposable income, you have your Apple watches to Aura rings to, Whoops, for example, and then I think it's just an extension of that for the sport specific variety of these or variations of these technologies, right? So I'd like to shift our attention to Kosovo.
Yeah.
So I think, especially in a number of sports, but especially in football, I believe it's probably the most popular sport here, there's an abundance of talent that's being developed, let's say, at a very young age. And we were briefly talking about this off camera, sort of with your experience in, a structured environment and a system, what do you think a developing country like Kosovo can do to leverage, already, the young population, but then also all this talent that is coming up?
So growing up here, we are a very passionate population when it comes to the game of soccer, football. We've always been very, very passionate, going back to old Pristina, golden generation, Fadil Vokri, and so on. And even my dad, that might not be crazy about the game, but still remembers those days and cherishes those days. And the list goes, so many other big-time players that brought so much joy to the people of Kosovo. Football is it. When our national team does well, the entire country feels great. Even me from far away, I try to make sure I watch every game, and I'm ready. And I try to invite even other Albanians around me, hey, come join me for Kosovo game or Albania game, whatever the case might be. In terms of youth, I've always kind of been involved in some way, shape, or form, helping, donating, and so on. With my hometown in Kamenica, so I always try to help with soccer balls or pennies or whatever I could from far away, just different part of the world. So it's not as easy to bring stuff and so on, or if sometimes even financial needs, whatever the case is. And then in last few years, I've been involved. I was asked if I was interested to be involved in forming a women's club to join the board, and I said absolutely. So the reason for that is I know how big is the women's side in my club and how big is in my country, and how big, how powerful is to empower girls to dream. Right away I said absolutely, it's no brainer. And so I got to join Kosovo, Pristina, and it's been absolutely awesome. It's been absolutely awesome to watch this club grow, a different part of the country, and we got different levels of teams from 15, 17, 19, senior level now, competing in the first division, going into a new season, a coach, a female coach as well, to join that. So it's all that is, it's just beautiful. And we have organized quite a few camps, Barcelona camp to come to town, and we have had just had AC Milan camp come to town, and we do girls, boys, all of it, and they take from time to time, they take players down there to get the experience of what that looks like over there. I had the joy the other night to present certificates of different achievements that the players had through the camp. Again, just watching how much more the parents are into it as well, which is very interesting, something that I did not grow up with. My parents never saw me play. Like simply, like maybe on the street, whenever, and so on and so forth, but just very different here, very different involvement. So I do feel that in terms of structure, it's gonna standard of the structure, standard of the demands, education, we still got ways to go. I do believe, again, we are a very passionate country, parents are passionate, families are passionate, players are passionate. Now, how do we change that to create a standard of cultivating more players to go to the next elite level and not just stay here? How can we cultivate to compete at the highest level? There is nothing that Croatia has more than us. There is nothing Portugal. Those are small. Again, we're not, population-wise, we're not as big as them, but for as big as, I mean, in some way, for as big as Croatia is, and population-wise, they produce in a way, as many Brazil of Europe. They produce players left and right. Even Portugal, around 7-8 million, something like that, they produce a massive, massive elite level when it comes to a game of football. I do believe that there's room for this country to grow more. We are doing, especially on the men's side. We have some big players around Europe, and they have done very well, outstanding, absolutely true elite players, and I think there's going to be more and more, but hopefully, personally, what I would love to see is also have that team from here that truly as a team can go further in Europe, and as a nation we can go further into competition. Hopefully soon we can be part of a European Championship or a World Cup and something that, but again, back to local youth, I would like to see more, personally. I feel like...
What are some things that you think that Kosovo needs to maybe focus on a little bit more? Because from my understanding, for example, like the infrastructure, having more fields or enough fields for both male and female, for example, seems to be one kind of challenge that they're facing. And without a field, the sport cannot be played, right? So
100%. Yeah, definitely is a need for infrastructure. Definitely it's a need for fields. There is not any big complex. Like, for example, like I host tournaments, and when I say sometimes to people like, oh, for 500 people, they cannot comprehend around it. But we have over 60 fields in 5 to 7 mile radius. So that creates an environment to be able to do anything. Now here, also over there, we struggle sometimes for practice fields as well, because some of the complexes are made just for the games, and we're not allowed to practice. So it's, but I do feel like there's a massive need here for fields, because I know, including our club, that I'm part of it on the board, we constantly have challenges to have a prime time or even just a space to have this woman's side, and yet it's not a priority. So we're trying to change that into priority. We are currently working on a project to potentially have our own say in our own field and to be able to control that destiny as well. So looking forward to see where we can take that, but definitely fields it's a must need. And then with fields, I feel like the next big part is more quality educators. It's not just knowing the game, it's the type of educators. Because sometimes we look at sport, you must be a professional in that sport. Not necessarily. It's about
the best player isn't necessarily the best coach.
Exactly. Right? So you're trying to find the right educators to evolve the game, enjoy the game, and take the game to the next level. Give the foundation, and then let the experts after that go from there. But yeah, definitely those are some. I feel like some of the big needs from it.
But I guess the excitement is there, and certainly the potential is there. One last question, Esad, as we wrap up our conversation. What are, let's say, your next moves? What are you kind of focused on moving forward?
So this year we made some big changes around our club. I was doing a lot of different tasks around our club, a lot of leadership roles around the club. I appointed 8 directors this year, 6 different directors to oversee different platforms that we have U13 to U19. We are roughly 84 teams in our club on the competitive side. So it's a massive club. And to be the best, you have to put the right people and allow the freedom. Just like we want the players to have the freedom, you also want the right leadership around you to trust them and have them focus, have more deeper focus on each level. So we got from U6 to U8, we call the Sparks director. So it's our Sparks program to spark. And then we go into select program, which is U8, U9, U10 program. Then we have a director on the boys' side, and we have a director on the girls' side. They also transition to U11 and U12. The reason why we have a Sparks, because it's 4v4 format. And then on U9, U10, we go to 7v7 format. And then U11, U12, we go 9v9 format. And then U13 to U19, it's 11 versus 11 format. And U13 through U19 compete around the nation. So we are on the road a lot. So we play teams from California, Arizona, North Carolina, Florida, you name it. We are playing teams from all over the country. We are part of a platform called ECNL, Elite Club National League, so you're competing against teams across the country, but only from U13 to U19. U11, U12 and below, we try to focus on local, keep the expenses down as much as possible. But then back to leadership, just allowing myself to take in other projects. So by bringing all these directors in, obviously there's room for other things to improve around the club. So now I get to have the delegation with them. They get to do their part, they report, I assist, I help as needed. And my big focus from the club point of view, we have events that I want to grow them to even higher level. And then sponsorship, fundraising, work a lot around. Coaching education is going to be a big part of my upcoming year as well. I want to bring as much different variety of diverse ways of approaching things. It's not a way. We're going to have many ways and different approaches and deal with you. Because again, if you have the right people in place, if you're given the right tools, it's sometimes we get into easy judging somebody. Like if you're judging a coach, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But what did I do for the coach? How did I support the coach? That becomes on me. If I don't look at myself in the mirror and be like, how can I improve my process? It's hard to evolve. It's hard to grow. And I think a lot of time leadership lacks on that. Like you want the players to improve, but as a coach, what are you doing? As a leader, as a director, what are you doing? And when each layer starts thinking that way, now it's easy to move to the next level. So I'm looking forward to allowing everyone to kind of do their thing and support them and guide them and picking other projects as well that I feel like this year we started a local league as well, that I've been a big part of it, that I want to have a change in town and continue to bring a better service, a better league, a better competition to the kids in the community, and just continue to grow and just give easy access to all the players that love the game and enjoy the game. So
that's amazing. I think it's never something that is static, right? There's so much that is dynamic that needs to continue to evolve. I mean, the game itself is continuing to change, right? And you have to adapt to that. And then not to mention all the different variables that you are juggling, right? On different, from the different sexes to the different age groups. It's really something that's inspiring. So thank you so much, Esad.
Thank you.
Really
I appreciate you
this.
having me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.